Greetings and welcome. Thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast. It is certainly a pleasure to be able to sit here this evening, yet again, in the stead of my brother, instead of a friend, Mr. Benchchop, as he calls himself. He has another engagement and would have asked me to be here in his stead. I consider this not an ordinary or a simple task to be responsible for sitting in the seat of one uh, so well grounded in his convictions as Mr. Mark Benchchop. I therefore issue an apology on his behalf because, of course, I know that he holds this straight up talk show to very dear to his heart, and I'm overjoyed to be afforded the opportunity to share with you freely, of course, that which has convicted and is convicting me regarding the state of affairs in our nation. To all of you viewing and those of you listening on 107.1 FM, I greet you with the word shalom, which speaks to peace. And that is what I would like for you to endure or for you to experience. Guyana, as we know it, is a very interesting nation, one that's in the forefront in international circles because of the excessive amounts of oil that they say would have been discovered here and is being exploited. And I use the term exploited. It's being extracted from our ground. It's being shipped away from our shores. And there is no Guyanese who can say that they have enjoyed, in general, $1, 1 cent, a penny, a nickel, a dime from the oil money that sits in the U.S. Federal Reserves in New York. That is the doing of our political leaders, who would think it necessary to have our resources, our oil, our wealth, our money, I should say, the revenue from the oil. They have no issue with that money being stored or sitting in a bank away from our shores, and we cannot access it. Let me hasten to share with you this evening that the views that I share on this broadcast and this show, straight up, may not necessarily be those of my friend, Mr. Mark Benchchop. However, I will always speak respectably of him for the mere fact that he is unafraid to permit someone who's deemed controversial to permit me to sit in his place at this time to speak to matters. And he actually said to me, whatever the matter is that I choose to address, I'm free to do so. Now, that's taking a great risk. And I am certainly humbled by the confidence reposed in me through Mr. Benchchop's statement. What I would like to focus on this evening is, as the title you may see is Po Guyana, and that's a Guyanese socio-vernacular, so the way we speak. Po Guyana. Po means poor. And we're not speaking to Po Guyana here in reference to the money, the wealth that we lack because we have excesses of wealth. I'm speaking to the state of affairs of our country. Permit me, please, if you do not mind, to express my views. And I ask of you to share this broadcast if you can with others. Invite them to view it if you're on Facebook. And if you're tuned into 107.1 FM, maybe you can turn the radio up a little louder so your neighbors can hear what I have to say. Especially if you live beside those who think that our country is to be governed in a manner in which I am not free to sit in the studio for Mr. Mark Benchjob without being deemed one who is supporting a party that he does. And permit me to begin there with this evening, because our country requires independent, for Mr. Mark, independent thinkers. And I will say this without reservation. Our country is in desperate need of independent thinkers. What is the issue? What is the challenge with my sitting here in a studio, speaking in the place of, as you say, instead of, or in the stead of Mr. Benchjob? With what's the problem with that? The problem that I saw, and I was expected to see, is that there should not be this form of association, because the view is that I'm supposed to be apolitical, which I am, and I'm not supposed to therefore have any association with anybody who seems to be more inclined to support, for example, the PNC, as they view Mark Benchjob to be. And one who is opposed to the PPP Civic, I should not associate with him, because if I associate with him, even in this capacity, then it would lend itself to persons viewing me as one who is a representative of the PNC. I would like to begin there this evening. Guyana is in a sad state if individuals are not mature enough to understand that as an adult, I am free to interact with anyone I choose to, while I still retain my convictions. I am free to relate to anyone that I choose to without losing my deep convictions. I have made myself available, and I shall do so this evening as well. I am free to sit with any talk show host, with any media house in this country, to discuss whatever topic you want us to talk about. What I find interesting is that those who are known to be supporters of the PPP Civic try their best to steer as far away as possible from me. Now, what you need to do is ask yourself why. What is there for me to say that the PPP Civic supporters cannot handle? I have never heard Mr. Benchjob say he doesn't want to speak to me because I would speak against APNU AFC or speak against the PNC. No. So I will always compliment him in that regard. Our country is in desperate need of independent thinkers, of individuals who are free to think for themselves, who are able to interact with other people without losing a sense of who they are. With that in mind, I shall speak freely to you as a people who choose to pay attention to this broadcast, who choose to tune into the radio this evening, expecting to hear something of interest and importance. I am not here to sit to compliment the PNC. I'm not here to sit to compliment the PPP Civic. I'm not here to sit to compliment APNU AFC. I'm here to speak to you, my Guyanese brothers and sisters, in the context of us being Guyanese. I'm not sharing any faith. We are witnessing the establishment of a class in our nation, a class of people, a group of individuals who are seeking to lead our country into a position whereby the average Guyanese, which would be the majority of Guyanese, the overwhelming majority of Guyanese, you shall be unable to truly enjoy wealth as you sit in your country. It has already begun to happen. Have you noticed how many shore-based facilities there are on the east bank of the Demerara, and also in Region 3, they're about to have one, and in other places. Do you know what shore-based means? Shore-based institutes or organizations speak to buildings, operations, and so on that are on shore, they're on land, but they do business with ExxonMobil. Why is that important for you to understand? You need to understand that because shore-based facilities are already in operation in this country. My question to you is, how many of you Guyanese can say that you are benefiting from the billions of dollars being made by these shore-based facilities and these corporations, these operations? Are you benefiting? I heard Irfan Ali and Jagdi and others say that we're supposed to enjoy the wealth from the oil. But when I travel down to the city, from Linden where I reside, I'm seeing more and more development along the Demerara River, the East Bank. And I'm seeing buildings already erected to serve as shore-based facilities. I'm seeing businesses being done and established serving as shore-based facilities, but I'm not seeing many Guyanese benefiting from these shore-based facilities. Just to make some of you a bit more uncomfortable, I'm not seeing many Afro-Guyanese owning shore-based facilities. Now, once I go down that path with you, you're going to begin to label me, if possible, you may be doing so already on the, Facebook in your comments, that I'm racist. Simply uttering the truth to you makes me racist in your paradigm. That is how you process. That is why the topic this evening is poor Guyana. We're in trouble. Because if I cannot simply utter the truth to you and you receive it as truth, we are in serious trouble. I challenge you, and I know that the operator would be willing to present on the screen anyone who can name 3 or 2 Afro-Guyanese who own prominent shore-based facilities in this country, who own and operate, who own them, not who work in them. Name 2 or 3 of them. Why is that important? Then if an Ali speak to one Guyana, so what does one Guyana mean? That we're just going to smile in each other's faces, but we're not going to have equitable distribution of wealth? Didn't Sarah Anlin say that there should be that? Didn't the US handlers tell you all that there's supposed to be equitable distribution of wealth in our country? What does equitable mean? Equal. Is there? Or are these shore-based facilities owned and operated by lackeys, which are friends of, and cronies, I should say, who are friends of the administration in power? Is that the Guyana we want to have before us? What I find startling is that the likes of politicians in opposition are very cautious when it comes to dealing with these matters and speaking to them with any degree of conviction. Why? I saw today, I think it was, or yesterday, that I think it's Barrett is his name, the minister responsible for natural resources. This man had the nerve to say that they are eagerly seeking, searching for auditors to audit ExxonMobil charges to Guyana, which surpass $9 billion US. Now, some of you Guyanese would have can never think about how much money you're talking about here because you never encountered that kind of money. Can you imagine that while ExxonMobil says that we owe them thus far based on operation more than 9 billion. I think they said the audit was $30 billion. I think I saw it in Kaiju News. I hope it's accurate. Or I should say, I hope it's inaccurate. But ExxonMobil is saying to Guyana, listen, we're pumping oil out of these wells. The oil is being sent away, and it costs us this amount of money thus far to dig the wells, to establish the platforms, to drill and everything else, and operations. It costs us billions of US dollars. And this administration that is supposed to be so effective in functioning, they are now trying to find auditors to audit Exxon's charges. How can that make a modicum of sense to you? How? So Barrett is telling me, not Jagdeo here. And of course, Barrett can't speak without Barrett. Jagdeo giving him permission to say certain things. Can either of the Barretts tell me if it makes sense to you that a company could be functioning in a manner in which you know that they're going to send you a charge? This is what we spent, and the Guyanese have to pay it, not you. And you are saying to us that you are now trying to find auditors to prove that what Exxon is saying is true. Now, you see, when Mr. Benchop is not here, I have to try my best to keep calm and to reduce my passion. And somebody said to me, say it how you want to say it. Now, I need to decide which one I should do. Because when I talk about these things, it gets me blue angry, extremely mad. I cannot see the PPP Civic being so critical of everybody else. And something as simple as this. This is elementary here. You are now trying to find auditors to audit a charge of $9+ billion? Where are you finding them from? Where do you have to go? Oh, so we do not have a state-run auditing office called the Office of the Auditor General? No, they're not qualified then. Do we not have private auditing firms? Are they not qualified? Could you not say beforehand, it's called foresight, that you are going to way before this establish an independent body, hopefully autonomous body of auditors who would be on the ball from day one to see what ExxonMobil is charging us for? I thought that's common sense, that's basic. So thus far, ExxonMobil is at liberty to just throw charges in our faces and say, this is what we spent. And all the Guyanese are supposed to do is say, okay, yes, that's what you spent. We understand. Can you not see the potential here for ExxonMobil to rape our country as they've done in Africa, in Nigeria, and other places? Can you not see the potential for ExxonMobil to do whatever they want to do and then say that Guyanese must pay for it? Is this not enough to upset some of you all? We are in trouble. Poor Guyana. Poor Guyana, you are in some trouble that you can't even you would not even fathom how much trouble you are in as a nation if we cannot see what this administration has done. When did ExxonMobil begin to pump oil out of our ground? There were costs attached to surveying. There were costs attached to drilling. There were costs attached to extracting the oil from these with the platform. You have Liza Destiny and so on. There's a cost attached to transporting the oil. So when all of these costs are being coagulated, accumulated, the PPP Civic couldn't figure out that you need to have auditors, since Exxon is saying that Guyana has to pay that. That's in a contractual arrangement. But y'all are competent, though. You are competent and you're caring. You care so much for us that you can't find auditors to audit our expenditure. You know why? Because I'm convinced, based on your behavior, that y'all own this oil. PPP Civic, APNO FC politicians, it's yours. That's why you could do what you want with it. Has there been any genuine public consultation in reference to the contract under Janet? I think it was signed, and then Ramatar and these people. Did they truly engage the public in a discussion about what the cost is, about what the cost to us would be, projected cost? Did they engage you to say that this is what we want to negotiate? Did they do that? Let me tell you what these people did. They positioned themselves to say that they were elected to do business for us. And then the likes of Robert Prasad, I think it was, who said that he trusted those who advised him. And Rambatar had no clue about what the contracts really entailed. Imagine that. Remember, one of those agencies that got, I think it was the Kanji block or one of those blocks, did not even have a physical office? Never existed? When I searched, nobody tells me this here. I searched online to find the office of this company that was issued an entire block, a whole oil block, not a plot, not a house lot. I sought to find the address of a company on the website. I needed to search to see which company could be awarded an entire block of oil. 3 people. And I think one of them is the major shareholder, and 3 of them in the company. And under Donald Ramatar, which is the PPP Civic, 1 person got a whole oil block. And he doesn't have a single office in Guyana. And now this fellow is he's going into some insurance, I think it is business in Trinidad or somewhere. This is a very caring PPP Civic administration we know about here. And they could be critical. What is startling to me is that when David Granger ascended to office, he never said this. We never heard from APNO AFC what transpired. So are you suggesting to me that Donald Ramatar could essentially give a whole block of oil to somebody, and Granger and others couldn't name who the people are? For 4+ years, you couldn't say this oil block was given to such and such a person? Remember when Jordan said he thought that $18 million signing bonus was a gift? Yet you couldn't tell us about it. So Jagdi, I think it was, had to expose that Guyana collected $18 million in signing bonus. Pittance, by the way. That must be Rex Tillerson's lunch money. And Tillerson was the former CEO of Exxon. I'm saying all of this to let you understand, and I'm sure that most of you do by now, that our country is in a crisis. Because the leaders who position themselves, who hold a posture as though they are so thoughtful, so caring, and so apt at leading our people. But look at what they're doing to us in reference to our resources. Let me not fail to tell you that the person who got this oil block, the whole block, sold it. I think it was to Hess or one of these, or some China company or others in Exxon. He sold it. So without having an office, without having a physical office you could visit, without having any website that's functional, without having any money to buy any oil block, this person is now a billionaire. And Ramatar is not going to jail for it because of presidential immunity. Robert Prasad is not going to jail either because he said he trusted his advisors. But you want to harass, and I don't defend foolishness. I told her before, for me, anyone who is guilty of electoral fraud should be put to death. I don't believe in putting people in jail for that nonsense. So don't go down the road with me. I'm saying to you, the PPP Civic could focus so heavily on who is guilty of electoral fraud in their mind, but you can't focus on what Ramatar did to you. And what Robert Prasad said, that he trusted his advisors, hence you just sign away or like that. You may say to me, why am I not talking about PNC's Congress? Why am I not talking about Aubrey Norton? Why not speak about Joseph Harmon? Why not talk about Van West Charles? Why don't I talk about the Congress that they'll be voting for new leadership on Saturday? Listen to me. In our manner of speaking, they're bigger fish to fry because Norton cannot cause any change to come to the contract. Harmon, worst. Van West Charles, impossible. They are all incapable of rescuing us from the peril of a tycoon, of a whale, of actually a great white shark called ExxonMobil. These people, APNU AFC, PNC, PPP, their focus is on having power. That is the bottom line. Their focus is not on having Guyanese enjoy that which is rightfully ours. Their focus is on having power to control and power to say that they have the authority and the right to just make decisions, and whatever happens to us happens. That's the quality of leaders we have in this country across the board. My issue with that is, how many of you are prepared to sit and have these kind of people? And I'm using much of our casual way of speaking here, or colloquialism, we call it. You prepared to have them throw sand in your eyes repeatedly, non-stop, without you ever saying, listen, stop this. I'm on to you now. I can see what you're doing. Come on, Guyana. Come on, Guyanese. We're better than this. We're smarter than this. So with all of this wealth now, all of this money we have available, potentially we have available, I should say, there are elected officials who have no shame in telling us, like Barrett, that they are now trying to find auditors to audit this charge that ExxonMobil has laid at our feet. And we are not going to protest ExxonMobil's office. We're not going to protest Jack Dior and Barrett's office. We won't go to the Ministry of Natural Resources and protest to say we refuse to accept this foolishness from you, because our country apparently has become so weakened, our populace, our people, that you've lost even the strength to fight for your children's future, for your great-grandchildren's future. If you let this slip away, you would not recover easily, because ExxonMobil has no interest in Guyana apart from oil. Just know that. When the wells dry up, or before they dry up, Exxon would pack up and leave you. Another topic that I'd like to speak about in reference to poor Guyana is the fact that Ashni Singh, the Minister of Finance, Ashni again, Ashni and the PPP Civic administration are going to approach the National Assembly, which would be the House of Parliament, for 20 plus billion dollars. Call it a supplemental budget. Supplementary. They need some more money there. They spend the 323, I think it is, $billion. They needed some more. So they have to come back within 6 months now. They're coming again to ask the floor, to ask the House of Assembly to agree for them to spend another 20 plus billion dollars within 6 months. They are back because they have run out of money, essentially, and they need it. And in one case, he said they already committed to or spent 5.7 or so billion dollars. Guess where? On paying sugar workers who testified that they already received from the AFC administration under the, because we paid it anyway. The administration don't pay anybody. The taxpayers already paid these workers who were severed in 2018. Some of these people are being classified as having or not having any money severance given to them. So they're now getting $250,000. $250,000 each. And Ashley Singh is going to the House of Assembly to say that they need some more money because they use the money to pay sugar workers. And they're in the media floating around as demigods, little gods here and there, dishing out $250,000 tax-free to workers. But public servants are going to get 7%, and you're rejoicing now. You're happy about that. That public servants are going to get 7% taxed. But sugar workers are getting $250,000 without any tax attached to it. Then Ashley Singh is going to represent the Pacific administration, going to the House of Assembly for permission to, in some cases, recoup $5 billion. Get it back then, because they spent it already. And then they said in the cash grants, they spent a lot of money too. Now, I know that this, and as I'm saying to you here again, that those of you who cannot be independent in your thought would believe that I'm representing PNC because you can't think straight. And I really have no mercy on you. I do not even pity you. Since this kind of conversation is too lofty or too high for your reasonings, I would not seek to establish any degree of connection with you. But those persons who are capable of thinking rationally can understand what I'm saying to you. And to you, I would speak therefore. How did Guyana, Mr. Ashley Singh, recover so quickly? Because I remember that you said, or not you, but the PPP Civic said, through their agents or representatives, the ministers or cabinet, whoever you call them, that Granger left an empty treasury. I remember that within the first few months of your being in office, Guy Suko again got billions of dollars to reactivate the sugar industry, which is still failing. So how could you find billions of dollars from an empty treasury? Then you had your mega budget, $300 plus billion. Then you say you had to have a supplement because of the COVID-19 relief and so on. Then now within 6 months, you want another supplement from an empty treasury. So where does money come from? Because we cannot touch the oil money yet. And Charles Ramson was bold enough on 94.1 FM to make everybody hear that we haven't spent a dollar, he said, from the oil money. And I think he was trying to impress people in the studio that the PP is doing so well. So if you have not touched any of the oil revenue, where are you getting almost $400 billion from within 2 years to spend from an empty treasury. How do you do that? I need to hear from you, Ashley. I need to hear from you all the magic that you work, because you don't want me to tell the Guyanese what you do. So maybe you can comment here to inform us all about what you do to acquire this kind of wealth, to spend it all across the board. Well, let me share with Guyanese what you would do then. What you do is you continue to function in a manner that, beginning with Asghar Ali up until today, you all do the same thing. Jordan is no different. Now, I told you, when I sit here to represent Mr. Benstrap, or in the stead of Mr. Benstrap, I do not necessarily express his sentiments. What I do is I speak as boldly as he does. I hope I do justice to the platform. But I try my best to maintain who I am, because nobody makes me change who I am. And that is the one who speaks the truth without reservation. All of the ministers of finance in this country function under a basic umbrella. It is called taxation. We rarely have any foreign direct investment. What these people do is they tax the life out of us as a people. This country, in reference to its earning, the government, 90+% of what we earn comes from us, the people, being taxed. Guyana is labeled, still labeled, a poor nation based on the reality of Guyanese, not the projection from oil wealth. So all this, the IMF say you've grown by 16% and whatever percentage. No. We aren't feeling that, because the average person won't have need for handouts from the government if we're feeling it. Guyanese, we're in trouble. Poor Guyana. Poor Guyana. Imagine that from Asghar Ali, which is under Cherry Jagan, you have been heavily taxed. May I inform those of you who hate him so much that you were never taxed to this degree under Forbes Burnham? Now, please, operator, let put the comment of those who can prove me wrong there, just for my sake. We have never been taxed 90 to the government, I should say, under Forbes Burnham, the administration wasn't earning 90+% of the money through us or on our backs, called taxation. No, you can hate Burnham all you want. I'm here to tell you the truth. Asghar Ali is the person who began this weighted, suppressive, and oppressive taxation. He introduced 33 1/3% tax on our earning. He did it. He introduced us having to pay 200% and 300% on a vehicle before you could drive it. Burnham didn't do that. The PPP Civic began taxing Guyanese to the point of poverty. And you could talk to me about being caring. I am not here to represent the PNC, I'm here to represent the truth. If you can't grasp that, it means that you have a mental disorder. Because Jordan did no different. Jordan had the nerve to tax my phone card, my credit. When I purchased a data plan from Digicel under Jordan, I had to pay tax on that. and I would sit to represent PNC or APNU FC. Am I out of my mind? These people were taxing pensioners. You could tax water that people have to drink. And I would represent APNU AFC. I represent Guyanese with sense. If you're daft, I'd never represent you. Again, I say to you that my views are not necessarily those of 107.1 FM or Mr. Marben's shop. I'm just sitting here in the seat, occupying my time for an hour in his stead. And this just happens to be one of those nights that I am tired of the foolishness that our Guyanese people have consistently had to endure, and now you pop up saying, oh, there's Congress, there's this, there's that, make me leader. To do what? How much different can you be? It takes a special category of a moron to sit and accept any one of you from across either side leading them in this country and having confidence that you will do better. Because I want you to know, please, that better is not always good. It doesn't get you into the good phase. In other words, if you are at worst, then better than worst is worse. That they call superlatives and diminutives. So if I go from worst, which is bad, 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 I can then get to worse, which is better than worst, but I'm still in a bad position. Then I could go from worse to bad. Now I got better. I'm no longer at worse. I'm at bad. Bad is better than worse, but I'm still in a bad position. And that is what Guyana is experiencing at the hand of these politicians. They are dishonest. They're disingenuous for the greater part. How can you tell me? How can you tell me that it is okay if you are so passionate about the PNC? How can you tell me that it's all right to put a tax on somebody's phone credit or water bill or the light bill? How is it okay to do that, Jordan? Is that the most insightful thing you can do? Is that the most inspirational thing you could have done? Is that the most wise in reference to operation that you could have experienced or exercised? Tax people even more? We pay as you earn, it's called. Then you taxed when you go into the supermarket to purchase anything. It's called VAT, value added tax. Then if you want to have the luxury of driving a vehicle, you tax on that too. Then if you begin to make money in a business, you tax for that too. And heaven help you if you make more than $100 million or so, because that taxation gives, I think, is about 30+% back to the government. I may be mistaken. You can correct me. But once you get into a certain earning bracket in this country, you are in hell when it comes to taxation. So in essence, the more money that Guyanese make when you go into private enterprise, they kill you when you get a certain tax bracket. So it doesn't even make sense to earn a lot of money in more business. Do you understand how taxation is destroying our nation's development? Let me tell you what they do. They use your money. I'm speaking to critical thinkers. I'm addressing independent minds. And I feel refreshed if I can engage you in a manner that you can accept and understand. These people are telling you that they have built. Imagine PP Pacific is telling you that they APNU did the same thing. PNC did the same thing. That they built roads. Can you imagine that the PPP Civic, Dharamlal, has the nerve to post images and say that the government has built the road? What road you built? How much money did PPP Civic ever get from Freedom House to build the road? The elected officials in this country cannot honestly tell you how government functions. If they cannot be honest about something that's simple, how can you trust them, Guyanese? How? The PPP Civic never built a road. You cannot build a road because it's the taxpayers who build it. If money comes out of what is called the treasury, my Guyanese brothers and sisters, you are the ones who's doing it. The government or the administration is simply managing the treasury. So how can you tell me that you built a road? You built farm to market road. You built adjoining streets to main roads. You did it, Dharamlal. Where was the money? From your account? Did you do that? You provided water in Kanji the other day. No, you didn't. And as simple as it may seem, these elected officials must be honest about how government functions. The administrative arm of government, how do you function? The judiciary, how do you function? The executive arm, how do you function? Please be honest with the Guyanese people. You do not, you, the government, you, the administration, you do not build anything. You have oversight of the people's resources, of the people's money. You manage based on the electoral policies of this country, which I would advocate strongly to be changed. You manage the economic and other resources of our nation. You manage the financial resources. You are the ones who are saddled with the responsibility. You saddled with the task of ensuring that the people of this nation's business is conducted in a manner that benefits us. But you people can't do that. You present propaganda to say that you built the roads, you provided lights, you provide water, you built schools, and people say yes. Granger built schools, Ali built schools. Did they? Did they? Now, if our people are ignorant of something so basic, can you not see how easy it is for you to be tricked by political leaders? Tonight, my hope is that this broadcast, this show, if you tune into 107.1 FM, my hope is that you will hear another voice, a voice that is unafraid and unashamed, a voice that is uncompromised and uncompromising. It's time for us to engage each other in conversations that make us better. Guyanese, we must be educated. We must be re-educated because you've been misinformed so often that lies have become normal to you as even true. My final lamentation, my final utterance of grief, my final rant, or maybe two of them. The first would be the now almost irrelevant Frank Anthony. Frank Anthony, essentially, when I speak to him, I must inadvertently address Priyamani Chand as well, because she normally references or makes reference to Frank Anthony to justify her asininity. So Frank Anthony is warning us and cautioning us, Guyana, that Christmas is here. The festive season is here, so you must be cautious. Take your vaccine, and you must be cautious as to how you visit your families. Frank Anthony is not remembering, and I don't think that the operator has it. If he does, it'd be good to show it, that last week in Berbice, you had hundreds upon hundreds, it looked like almost 1,000 people or more, shoulder to shoulder, like pack up like sardine, as they say, to get their $250,000. You talking about people celebrating the holiday? Why didn't you tell them that they shouldn't do that? Why didn't you tell them that they should not have such a crowd where they were to get money? So am I to think that SARS-CoV-2 and this new variant and other variants take a day off when money is about to be shared, because with the cash grant for farmers, the same thing happened. With the cash grant for farmers, the same thing happened. With the school cash grant, same thing. Whenever there's a cash grant, COVID-19 becomes non-existent. Frank Anthony. Whenever your administration, whenever your friends, your colleagues are involved in anything with the public, COVID-19 doesn't exist. But when it's time for people to celebrate with their families, suddenly you have the nerve to warn them. Why didn't you warn those who went to get the money that they shouldn't do that? You permitted the photo opportunity. You facilitated it. You didn't send a task force to stop them, Mr. Mark Phillips. The task force couldn't stop them, but you could stop me if I want to go to the street tomorrow to speak with a microphone. I must write you a letter to ask you permission to talk to a crowd by the market. I must be out of my mind. But that's the poor Guyana situation we're in. Look at our country. Frank Anthony is now seeking to advise us to arise with some relevance that in this festive season, I don't have time Christmas period, so it doesn't affect me. But for those of you who have interest in the nonsense, he's saying that you must be cautious about your interactions even with your family. He still has all the markets open for business, though. Regent Street, did you see it? Did you see how Water Street looks? Did you see how Starbucks Market looks? Did you see? Do you see how the supermarkets that his supporters and others own, do you see how they look? But for you to gather with your family, it's a problem, though. And on the heels of that, here is Priya. Priya is saying that school shall be reopened in January for everybody except grade 7. Priya, as I would call her, Pri, I have lost every sense of hope in your saying anything at this time that even gives me a hint of confidence in your ability to lead in education. You should leave as quickly as you can. Even in an unceremonious manner, you need to leave. There has never been, in my view, a worst minister of education. I don't know who did it. I don't know if they put the names in hats and you picked one and you got Ministry of Education. If you did, you should drop it back in the bag and say, listen, no, not this one. Give me another one. Labor. Probably. Because between you and Joseph Hamilton, I don't know who's worse. But you, I think, take the cake thus far. You had such great concern, Priya. You were so caring about COVID-19. I mean, I thought you were Minister of Health at one point, how you behave. And to think that with all of your talk about COVID-19 and the situation at hand, you know, if you didn't, I know that you do. Don't even try to say you don't. That there's a festive season, because Frank just said it. Frank said the Christmas season is here, the festive season is here. So many people by the hundreds of thousands will be in the street. So watch it. Take your vaccine because you're in trouble. As if vaccines change anything. But here's Frank saying that you need to be careful. And you, madam, within a few days after hundreds of thousands of people would be imbibing, drinking alcohol and other drinks, and having a ball. Therefore, they can't really rationalize well. You saying that after a festive season, school reopens. Madam, did you hear what I just said to you? Do you understand what you're going to do to our children? Unless there is an end to COVID, and Frank didn't tell us. You telling me that you are prepared. After Christmas is New Year's. So you telling me, and you know what happens at Christmas Eve night too. So you have Christmas and you have Christmas Eve. then you have New Year's Eve or Old Year's Night. So you're saying to us all, Priya Manik-chan, that our children shall interact, unless you put chains on their hands and feet. They'll interact during the festive season. You'll have Kashima and Shanghai football, all kinds of things going on in Guyana now. And you were saying that it is entirely safe for teachers who, for the vast majority, are unvaccinated or book buyers. You were saying that you are now okay for January to mark the period where our children and our wards would go into school yet again. In this instance, though, it would be by the tens of thousands, and that makes complete sense to you. Then you said to us that those who do not send their children to school, we must figure out how we're going to really deal with them, because no teacher will be engaging them. So we must go online, get the material, and then we do the best we can. Because what is your focus yet again in your utterance? Examination. You must be called the minister of examination, not education, because it's all you think about, based on what you say. Your focus is on examination, not education. Examination, which is a term called evaluation, that is summative, that's at the end. And it is not the most important aspect of education. How well are your teachers trained to diagnose where a child is? And then to deal with that diagnosis in a manner to correct or to improve where the child is. All that you talk about is education. Or examination, I should say, not education. Examination. My brothers and my sisters, enemies and friends, it is my hope that this time I spent with you would have served to ignite some passion. I'll ask the operator to please present the photo for me before I leave you. But I hope that some passion could be ignited. You can present a photograph for me, please, so they can see what we've dealt with over the weekend with the money, the cash grant, the $250,000 payout. I want to leave you with this image to show you Frank's incompetence, and that on the back of that, she can go ahead and open schools in January. Are you there? Look. Money, $250,000. Oh, Guyana. And you should see the crowd that gathered. Is this social distancing? Do you see social distancing in that image? Where's the distance? Do you see physical distancing? Where is the spacing? Keep the images coming if you can. Thank you so much. Let them see it. Let Frank Anthony see that. Thank you. I don't see Mark Phillips. I don't see the police arresting anybody here for breaking COVID-19 guidelines. Oh, Guyana. Thank you, operator. With that, again, I'm grateful to Mr. Benchchop for have taken the time to have me here in his stead. Thank you. I hope that I've done justice to your platform. If not, we can talk about this on another show. But I'm grateful. Thank you for the opportunity. Of course, the viewers would certainly look forward to hearing from you and engaging you again. I'm grateful. I thank you. To those of you who know how I would leave you, I bid you all shalom. Goodbye.